So apparently my parents talk about a lot of heavy stuff on their podcast. Listen at your own discretion. Like, comment, subscribe, and share or whatever. Anyways, welcome to Sober At.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Ryan. This is Jess. We are Sober as Fuck. Before we get to today's guest, I do want to remind everybody you can find all of our podcast episodes at safpodcast.com. That is safpodcast.com. We are streaming on every single platform out there. Also on our website, we have blogs, merch, cool shit.
Amazon storefront.
Bunch of cool shit. Check it out.
Any of the books from our guests that you hear
Yes.
are on our Amazon storefront. You can purchase them there. I do have a few that I need to add. Just life's been busy. But yeah, anything that our guests talk about on the podcast, you should be able to find there. And all of Ryan's best workout stuff. I need to put all my books on there.
That's what I was going to say. You said books available on there. You and
I don't know. I'm embarrassed.
We're about to have an intervention.
No, here's the thing. Okay. I could put the books that I read on there, but then
Smut.
people may see who I really am underneath the veil.
It's so bad.
It's not bad.
You have
Listen,
a terrible addiction to reading. And it's kind of like, so we talked about this maybe a couple months ago. And I know you're not alone. I know there's a lot of people out there that carry like 3 drinks everywhere. When you go to the table, you have 3 drinks.
sounds like an infomercial.
But when you read a book, unlike myself, and maybe it's just because it's different than I am, when I read a book, I purchase said book and I read it.
Nope.
You, just like your drinks, have to have the paperback.
We're talking about non-alcoholic drinks here, okay? I have to have water. When you said just like your drinks.
Well, you do.
For clarification.
You have a bubbly water, a flat water, and then
Something
like
for
a Diet
flavor.
Coke, tea, something like that.
Yep.
Yes. But when it comes to books, you get the paperback hardcover.
Because that's the best.
Then you got to have it on your Kindle.
Because it's more convenient.
And then you got to have the damn Audible.
Because I like to listen to it while I'm getting ready and driving around. I think those
3 purchases.
That all makes sense to me.
Isn't there like something out there that can take all 3 and put it into
here's
one?
The thing,
like
okay?
one purchase.
They don't have one that's all 3, but like with my Kindle, if I purchase a book on my Kindle, I get money off. Like I get the Audible at a discounted rate.
Oh, nice.
So instead of $13, it's like $11.
50 cents off.
But I just upped my Audible subscription. And
because I mentioned something.
You did. And I was like, that's smart. And so it gives me all my credits up front. But I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think it's going to be enough.
We need some like super duper plan or something.
Listen, and in all honesty, okay, so I'm ADHD and I'm OCD. And in the OCD, like I recently have really realized is like real heavy. Like I'm severely OCD. And I think with reading, it just silences all of that. Like it satiates everything that I need because it's a story and I don't know what's going to come next. And it's different. It takes me out of my space, but like not a way to escape because there's nothing in my life I want to escape, but it just like allows me to consume something that satiates all of that. I love it. I mean, there are way worse things that I could be doing.
I'm fully aware.
Could you imagine going to a meeting and being like, hi, my name is Ryan. My wife is addicted to reading.
Addicted to books. All the books. Look, I've been on a dirty fantasy kick. Okay. And they're great and I love them, but I also read things that are not dirty fantasy. Okay. Like I'm not going to name the series I'm reading right now because it'll shed light on things. But I'm reading a series right now and I was listening to it this morning because you took my car to get it, drop it off to get an oil change. So I followed you there.
because I don't like interacting with people in the wild. So I make you do those things. So I follow you there, and I'm waiting and I'm listening to my audiobook, and you get in and I'm like, I'm still listening. Is that okay? And you're like, yeah, I don't give a shit, because you can tune stuff out. But I know that even though you're tuning it out, you can still like hear it.
I can hear it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And I know you're curious. So you're like, what is she listening to? And luckily, like the couple chapters I listened to didn't have anything in them, but there was a moment where I felt like I was like a little kid, like watching a sex scene with her dad, and I like paused it real fast, and I looked at you and I was like, this may be a dirty scene that's coming up, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. And you were like, why? I was like, I don't know. And you were like, I don't give a shit. You went, I don't give a shit.
It's
and I was
watching a movie. We don't pause a damn movie just because something may happen.
This is the last thing I'll say about it, but some of the books I read are way, way dirtier than the movie.
I understand. It's okay.
And it's one thing when you read them, because then you have your own narration. Right, but when you hear some guy being like, and then you're like, oh my goodness. It makes me like giggle, Yeah. So that's, nice. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
But
speaking of,
I'm not giving up the reading. Okay.
I trust me. I know.
I've been
told. I've been warned. I know. It's okay.
I've
moved on.
Let me read, listen, touch my books.
I just wanted to bring it up for our listeners. Just let them know, hey, I'm here.
Yeah. If you're out there and you have an addiction to books, you are not alone. Go to safpodcast.com and find your community.
That's right. Speaking of books,
yes.
Who do we have today?
We have a fellow avid reader who agrees with me on the whole having to have paper, Kindle, Audible, and she's actually recording her audiobook right now. Her name is Barbara Latinka. You always fuck the names up, and I fucked it up this time. It's because I'm scanning the paper. Whatever. Shut up, Ryan. Shut up. And she's going to talk about her book. It's about her childhood trauma. She's written a magical self-help series, Spells for Surviving a Haunted Childhood. It's a trilogy. You know me, I love trilogies. I love series. Of course, I'm going to read it, listen to it, touch it. And she's written other things as well.
That's right.
So we're going to let her go into all of that.
Looking forward to hearing about the childhood trauma books for sure.
I can't wait. Yep. Are you ready?
Yep.
Are you ready?
Let's bring her on. Are you ready? Hey, Barbara, how are you?
Oh, hold on one second.
Hold on.
Hey, that was my bad. Hey.
Oh, that was you. Okay. No worries.
No worries whatsoever. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're
doing
well,
good. I hope you enjoyed our little playful banter there in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. I was giggling in the background, just like you do with your audiobooks.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I don't want to listen to that crap with my husband. That's weird.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm totally sure you've run across a couple of those where it's like, oh God.
I have, yeah. My preference, though, I'll be honest, I'm not a smut fan. That's something that I kind of steer clear from. But hey, each their own. I totes get it. No judgment. No judgment.
I'm actually, contrary to popular belief, not the smut fan. It's just some of the books I've read have some very dirty scenes, but that's never like what I look for. I have some friends who are like, the dirtier the better. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
I can, just like a movie, I can get down with the dirty scenes. I understand that a lot of the great books have like, graphic love stories, but I'm definitely more in it for like the politics and the fantasy and the story and the subplots and all of that. So I'm actually with you. But yeah, sometimes they throw some in there that are like, oh my goodness, what's happening right now? But I'm excited to read your books. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so Spells for Surviving a Haunted Childhood is linear with my own childhood trauma healing. I was in trauma therapy, like extensive trauma therapy with my therapist for the better part of like 6 months when she started to suggest that I start journaling. I started journaling, but it was really hard. It was really hard to relive all of those traumatic events and see my name intertwined in it and just feel so helpless and powerless in all these situations that happened to me as a child. So I sat with it. I told her, this is making me so sad in my regular life. Like I'm having a hard time going to the grocery store because of this journaling is weighing on me. And then it got to a point where I was so angry, and she was like, Barb, you got to feel that. You have to feel it. You've not ever been sad about this. You've not ever been mad about this. Everything that's happened to you justifies sadness and anger. Sit with it. So I did. And then this like epiphany happened, and I decided I'm going to take control of my narrative. I'm going to kind of like put on a director's cap and take myself almost out of the book, but still completely like I'm writing about myself in the book. But not really. So here's the thing, like in my series, the narrator throughout is nameless. You don't know her name. And it kind of helps the reader relate to the character a little bit more. Because, you don't see her name throughout the entire series. You almost kind of feel like you are going through what she's going through, mm-hmm. because it's so in my mind and how I'm thinking and just laying all these horrible things out there, but it's not naming me throughout. So I was able to put on this director's cap and think, okay, how do I want to tell my story? And I laid it all out there, wrote out like a roadmap almost of like what I want to talk about, what things I don't want to talk about, and then how do I want to address this in a way that might be able to be helpful for other people. And so when I did, this is a crazy thing, I wrote all 3 books in 6 days.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. I've always been a writer. I've journaled, I've wrote my entire life, but never in depth and never about like past things. It's usually like current things. So when I started, it like literally like an epiphany, a light went off and I just kept going. My husband noticed it and I looked at him, I'm like, I have to do this. I have to get this out. It's like I'm sick. Like whatever it is that's been holding me back for my entire life is like right here, and I have to get it out. He was so supportive. We have 3 daughters. He made sure that everyone in this house, all the girls were fed, taken care of, all the things that mom does and dad did, he did for an entire week to make sure that I could just focus on what I needed to focus on to help me feel better. And when I did, it was the biggest breath of fresh air I've ever taken in my entire life. Just the understanding of my story and writing it all down and how these things from my past relate so heavily to things in my present and could affect my future if I continue to let it. So I wrote it all out, and then so that was the last therapy session that I had that week. She was like, yeah, keep writing. That's great. I meet with her the following week. I'm like, okay, so I wrote 3 books. And she was like, what?
She's like, I'm sorry.
Yes. So I sent it all to her, and she was like, Barb, you have to put this out into the world. And the really cool thing that I really love about these books, other than, getting my own story out there, the story of hope and resilience, is the title, Spells for Surviving a Haunted Childhood. It doesn't stem from witchcraft. I'm definitely a spooky girl. I love all dark things, but I myself am not a witch. Sadly, I didn't get my Hogwarts letter. So I've used the word spells in a very playful way. And my hope is that people who read this will see like the magical realism in all of it and can kind of relate that to their own story. But the spells that are written throughout each series, each chapter ends in a spell. And these spells are basically meditative building blocks. So it is ways to ground a reader, introduce meditation to them so that they can overcome their own traumas in their own lives. And the stories intertwined throughout my series, I feel, is so heavily relatable to so many people. It's grief, divorce, addiction, infidelity, continue, like you just list off traumas, it's in there. So there's something for everyone to relate to, and then these spells that coincide with it are just really great ways for people to envision their own healing in a really unique perspective.
Wow.
That's cool.
I love that. You need to read those.
I
I'm going to read them like it's a given, but that would be, that
That would
sounds
be
like
really
right up
good.
your
Right
alley
up my
too.
alley with meditation and everything.
Well,
too,
because
which
we
I
always
really
talk
like.
about, in sobriety, a lot of people talk about a higher power, right? And I think that can turn a large group of people off. Initially, it turned you off, turned my brother off, would turn me off, because it's very like targeted towards a certain like religion or practice of faith. But something that we talk a lot about is, what is the difference between like prayer or meditation or manifestation or spells, or, you can call it whatever you want, but it's all the same thing. You are like sitting with yourself and providing allowance, and you're speaking intentions into existence and into the universe. You're asking for forgiveness, whether that be from God or yourself or, the universe. I mean, it's all the same thing. So I love that, like that each chapter ends on a spell, but like, interpret that how you want. I also, I am not a witch, but maybe maybe
You are a
previously.
witchy woman.
I am a witchy woman. I am very much. My best friend and I are both very witchy women. Actually, very quick side note, we love going to Massachusetts, and anytime we're in Boston, we always go to Salem because we love it. Not like the touristy stuff, but like the town itself is adorable, and the history, like if you really go for the history, is just fascinating.
Listen, in 1692, we would have been burned at the stake 100%.
Are you kidding? I think
Yeah.
that there are people out there that still want to burn me at the stake. So,
Same.
we're just
100%.
waiting.
And they're all in this book.
Yeah. The day I was like born, it would have been like, oh yeah, no. But we went there, and I have a friend who actually does practice witchcraft, and she is amazing. And she also is like a sober coach. And she has a friend who had a little shop there, because I was like, I want to go somewhere, but I don't want to go somewhere that's like, I want to go somewhere that's like legit. And I bought this little like spell kit with, it had a little journal and a pen and a candle and stuff and a crystal. And my daughter, she's like, you're practicing spells, Mom, you are a witch. And so now she tells all of her friends that I'm a witch. And I'm like,
nice.
Thank
should be afraid of you.
Oh my God, thank you. And I got a sweatshirt that says Big Witch Energy from there, and it's just, I agree. We would totally have been burned, or actually, I guess here, hanged.
Yeah.
The burning was in Europe, but yeah, I feel all of that. So I can't wait to read your book, because I think all of those things commingle. And that's really what's brought more and more people to sobriety and helped them feel comfortable in multiple circles, is that it doesn't have to be this certain playbook. Whatever your higher power is, whatever you're grasping to, like just whatever it is, just allow it. It's okay. Yeah. You were like that.
And I think, Barbara, that's something that you and I had talked about was, the childhood trauma seems to lead, and whether they talk about it or not, seems to lead to becoming an alcoholic, having an alcohol disorder, whatever it is.
It's a very common backstory.
It is a very common backstory. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, because that was something that I connected with you on, is that I had a lot of childhood trauma in my past that therapy has really helped me out with it. But one thing I really enjoy doing and love to do is meditating, which I'm very excited to do.
And journaling.
You're a
huge journaler.
huge. Yeah. But I kind of wanted to hear your story, because you've been sober for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I kind of want to hear your story, and what kind of led you up to writing the books. I know you and I've talked about, your mom had battled with alcohol, your dad was gambling. I'm both of those, so I can totally relate. But if you could give us a little bit of backstory on yourself and kind of what led you up to sobriety, reading the books and all that.
Sure. Yeah. So I am a child of divorce. I think a lot of us, unfortunately, can relate to that heavily. And I speak about that a lot in my series and how the divorce affected me. But, unlike some people who I know whose parents have gone through a divorce, it was almost like immediately when my family disconnected, I became somehow a third wheel and irrelevant in the story. So when the split happened, my dad left, and I was with my mom. My mom was battling her own mental health ailments. I was 6 years old at the time, and it's crazy to me because I have 3 daughters, and 2 of them have already been 6 years old. They're teenagers now, and I have a toddler. But at that particular age, it's so hard to see your own child at the age that you were abandoned or forgotten. And that kind of like awoke something in me that's like, I know that I've been trying to be the best version of myself, but like I really have to be the best version of myself for my children. So when my parents did divorce, I was with my mom, and my dad I would see on the weekends. My older brother, he's like 9 years older than me. So at that time, he was kind of a teen doing his own thing. So again, our family, it's just like we were a nuclear family, and that it exploded. And it seemed like I was the only one that was willing to like pick up the pieces. So I stayed with my mom, would see my dad on the weekends, but whenever I was living with my mom, every single day I saw less and less of herself and more of this different version of her. She was becoming someone I didn't recognize anymore. She forgot to tuck me in, then she forgot to pack my lunches, then she forgot to ask, really about me. She forgot to give me showers. I would go to school dirty. The school nurse would have to give me showers. This was back in the 90s, whenever things like this was still acceptable. Something like that would happen now. It'd be all over national news. Like, oh my gosh, that woman literally was the only person who cared for me in that moment. And that I'll never forget. So going through that level of abuse and neglect, there were moments in my time with my mom when I was living solely with her that she would get just so gone, she would beat me. And again, it's just, it's stuff that sticks with you and that you don't, you have a hard time thinking about tapping back into. But I'll say, when things like that, when stories, horrible, awful stories live in your mind, they run rampant. The only way that I was able to start to make sense of it and to like I was saying a minute ago, make a roadmap of it all was to start writing it down. So that really helped me like understand a lot when I started to write down what she did, and then also talk a little bit more about like her relationship with her mother and how disconnected that was. And I'm starting to connect the dots here, like, oh, I'm part of like a generational thing going on. So I have to break that. And I'm big into magic. Obviously I love the spookier things in life, the magical realism. So I looked at it like a curse. Like I had to break this curse that was plaguing my family. So it actually got to a point where my mom lost custody of me because of the neglect and the abuse was ongoing. So I was 8 years old. So I lived with her for about 2 years. And then at 8 years old, my dad, kind of as I love him dearly, God rest his soul, he more or less had to take custody of me or I would go to the state. So he stepped in and he took custody of me. And what I thought was going to be so great and so wonderful turned out to be just a different form of abuse. My dad ended up engaged in a relationship with a woman, and I don't want to give too much away, but that was living a secret life. And that trauma alone, from just thinking that somebody's who they say that they are, going a whole decade of your childhood thinking that that's who they say that they are, and then you turn 18 and you find out this is not who they said that they were. This is not the person that was supposed to protect me. My dad was complacent in it all. There was just secrets that should never involve a child. And that made me reevaluate my entire childhood. And at 18, I started looking for attention in other places. I wasn't getting it at home. And I think that that relates so heavily with us trauma victims or, childhood abuse victims. If we're not getting the attention that we feel like we want, deserve, or need, we're going to find it somewhere else. And we're probably going to find it somewhere that's comfortable to us. So in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of addiction, in the midst of turmoil and additional trauma, we go to what we find is comfortable. And unfortunately for me, what was comfortable was even more abuse, even more addiction, even more trauma. So at 18, I moved in with my drug dealer. And I was like, oh, I've got this. I've got control, independence, freedom, all of that. And then it hit me. I started to think, don't I want to be a mom? How am I going to do this? How am I going to be a mom? Because that's something that's innate in me. It was just born in me. I remember being like little tiny Barbara at 7 years old, looking around and being like, I'm going to be a way better mom than mine. I'm going to give my kids what I never had. So when the time came to I'm an adult, I'm off doing my own thing, which unfortunately was drugs and alcohol and living with my drug dealer and having people in and out of my house, these hangouts all the time. I looked around and then I just really started to question things, which I'm thankful that I did. I remember asking my boyfriend at the time, I was like, what are you going to do when we do become parents? Like, what's the plan? And he said, and I'll never forget this, I'll be the cool dad. That's not what I want. And I remember distinctly making that connection and just saying, you know what? I really feel like history is repeating itself right now, and I don't like that. Enough's enough. I've gone on this journey long enough. I think I need to separate myself. And I did. I separated myself from him, separated myself from his friends, and I started tapping back into people that I knew fully supported me. My lifelong best friend. I write about this in my book too, where I reconnect with her, and I knew that she's Team Barb. Like all these other people coming and going inside of my apartment, they didn't care whether I was laying down dead of an overdose or not. They didn't care that they would like sneak different types of drugs into my system and tell me that it's one thing and it's something else. They didn't care. They didn't care about any of that. She did. She cared about me. She cared about my well-being. We kind of lost touch because of my disconnection with reality. So when that happened, and I finally grasped an understanding of my life and like really just like took a step back and started to evaluate, and I'm like, all of these memories from my mom going crazy and my house becoming like, honestly, like a trap house. That's where people came to get what they needed whenever I was real little. So I'd see people in and out, loud parties in the middle of the night on a school night, all these things. And I'm starting to see this now in my apartment that I pay for with my bills, and the ashtray's full and the music's loud and the people are loud. And it's just, I'm starting to connect these dots here. Sadly, a lot of us don't. A lot of us fall into what's comfortable, and they're like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I felt that, but I think stronger than that, I felt the urge to be a mother, to be the mom I never had. And so I kicked all of that. I reconnected with my bestie, and I started looking for people in my life that were uncomfortable, but in the best way. Ones that I could tell cared and loved and wanted good for me. And I had to convince myself I deserved it, because I didn't believe it at first. When I met my husband, it took me about 3 months before I could like admit that we were dating, because I just couldn't believe that someone could care for me as much as he did, and that they weren't just trying to use me or trying to move on to the next best thing. I firmly started to believe maybe this man actually sees me for who I am and wants to stay. So again, finding those right people in my life, getting myself into just a different career field, a different house, a different phone number, like just totally uprooting everything that I knew and make it something different. And that was the best thing I could have ever done for my life, was meeting my husband and getting better.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So when you decided to quit drinking or quit using, like, how did you do that? Like, literally, like, did you work a program? Was it, like, how did you remove the physical substances?
Especially at such a young age too, which is very rare.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Yeah. Like I said, that the awareness alone, and I joke with my kids, but it's true. Awareness is the first step.
Mm-hmm.
If you're aware of your problems, like you continue to exhibit these problems, you're going to be like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm like, you're uncovering those layers of like, I'm only looking for what's comfortable because that's, unfortunately, chaos has been what's comfortable for me. I didn't involve myself in any sort of program. It was all 100% in here. I have to do this. I was using substances. I was drinking heavily. And by 19, when I met my current husband, I had already kicked everything out of my system, met him, and we just continued to build a life together almost immediately. It was kind of like a whirlwind of a year, and we started a family. And becoming a mom was just the solidifying factor of, I can never go back.
Mm-hmm.
I can never go back to what I had before, what I was doing before. And then again, time, understanding, awareness, and distance really helps you see what used to feel so big, and now it starts to like shrink, and you can see it more like from the outside in, like all this destructive behavior, all of these cycles and things that you're repeating is what you were born from, but you don't have to continue that. You can start over. You could do something different. And just having that complete understanding was, once you get past the withdrawals, if you have to want it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what I've always told anyone that battles with addiction. Your mom's not going to get you to stop. Your dad, your husband, your wife, your kids.
It's all on
it has
you.
to come from inside.
Yeah.
If you don't want that, like I never woke up and was like, I want to be an addict. I love this so much.
Right.
It's just from the lack of care and attention and feeling lost and alone, I just clung to what felt comfortable. But when I started finding comfort in things that were actually good for me, then I could never go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
It took me a long time to do that because, like yourself, I always felt like I was going to be this cycle breaker, right? So at a very, young age, especially when I had my first daughter and I was 22. Yeah, I was 22, about to be 23. I always told myself I am not going to be like my dad. That was one of my biggest things. And then after her birth and the drinking kind of ramped up and work and being away all the time, I felt myself turning into that person. And then I knew I had a problem years ago. It was just one of those things I never wanted to address.
Mm-hmm.
I had just succumbed to the fact that I'm an asshole and that's just the way it's going to be, until I finally made the decision that enough's enough. I've got to stop. I wasn't able to do it on my own because I had 30 years of total abuse on my mental health, my body. And I had tried AA a few times. I tried rehab. I found an online presence that had meetings and talked about neuroscience. And that's what, really helped me learn how to sustain sobriety, be a sober person, get on with my life, learn things like writing a letter to my younger self about, how things could be different or how you're going to be, which was a big turning point in my sobriety very early on. So yeah, I mean, for you to do that at an early age, like I said, again, is so aware and amazing. And the good news is you didn't abuse yourself for so many years. So I think that definitely helped out. And with your writing and everything, I think it's phenomenal to be able to use that to where you're at today is phenomenal.
Yeah. And what really is astonishing is even though you didn't believe it, with that awareness, you're like, I deserve respect and love.
Yes.
Because as I was listening to your story, yours and your mom's stories reminded me of my mom. So my mom was the cycle breaker, right? But she suffered an entire lifetime of like undiagnosed, untreated, or I should say, misdiagnosed and mistreated mental illness. She had, like eating disorders. I am not a doctor, so this is not a diagnosis, but what I can just, having known her, probably, very severely bipolar, borderline personality disorder. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not saying she was diagnosed with those things, but, she found a psychiatrist who just threw pills at her, and and that's escapism, and that's what she clung on to. And so when you were talking about watching your mom become the shell of a person, mine happened over a longer period of time. So, not so much. There was some childhood trauma, but not directly relating to her. Like, she was a fantastic mom. And, but what reminded me of you is she said that when she had my brother, who's older than me, she remembered shaking so badly when they laid him on her chest because she just felt this responsibility. She lived in a nowhere place in Alabama in a trailer, and she's like, well, that shit's done, and like dragged us out of there and got divorced and all that. But as we became adults and my brother became a severe addict, and she lost herself and she never really found it again. So I always feel like my mom was like these two different people, which I'm sure there's part of that you can understand too. But she never, ever, ever, ever got to the point where she thought she deserved respect. Like, it was always one of those things that she gave everything to us, and she didn't even know what she was wearing. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's like, oh, I don't even know if there are holes in this or whatever. And I remember from a young age, and I do this with our daughter too, and this is just one way, this is not the only way, but she would take me to get my hair done. She would take me to get my nails done, because that's stuff that I liked. And people would go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're like spending all that money on your daughter, and money that she did not have. We grew up very poor. I should put that out there. But she would be like, I want her to know that she takes care of herself first. You can't take care of anybody else unless you take care of yourself. And she gave us an amazing education for the same reason. She's like, nobody can take it. She had very open conversations about sex and relationships, like being in control, but she never got there for herself ever. And she passed away a few years ago. Essentially from a lifetime of trauma. And so it's amazing to hear your story, because she would always look at me and just be like, I did the best I could. Now you have to do better than me, because every generation has to be better. And then my daughter, Lily, she's like, and Lily, if she has kids, or even if she doesn't, she's got to do better than you, right? Like, we all fuck up and we all make mistakes, but you have to make different ones, right? You can't repeat. So when I'm hearing your story, and you have, did you say you have 3 daughters or just 3 children?
Yeah,
3
daughters.
Right. All I can hear, and you're like, I want to be a mom. That's so important. I could hear my mom's voice in my head, because she may have been a little bit morally gray, Nancy, but there was nothing she wouldn't do for her kids. And if she set out to do it, she's like, I'm fucking doing it. And that's just who she was. So
That's
I
commendable.
really heard that when you said it. And so just as a child who saw a mom who made that dedication, like, I can only imagine your daughters watching you, because the only part that she was missing was she could have given us a little less and given herself a little more. But it sounds like that's the balance, right? She didn't know how to do that. So for you to have that self-realization of, I deserve love, I deserve respect, even if you don't believe it, just acknowledging that it's true is huge. And I don't know how old your teenage daughters are, but do you talk to them about a lot of this stuff? Do they know your story? Have they read your books? Like, I'm sure you're open with them, but I mean, they probably like, my mom's a fucking badass. Like, not that our kids ever think that we're badasses, but you are, and I'm sure they think it. They just don't want to admit it.
Yeah, they've definitely read my series. I have always been very open and honest with them, and open and honest about our family history. I try to be an open book, literally. If I'm going to open up my life to the world, the least I can do is open it up to my daughters. And the reason I wanted to even put my story into book form is for them, their children, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren. I'm immortal now because I have these books, because my family lineage will always have my manuscript to go back and look at all of these traumas, all of these horrible things that might have happened in my life and how I overcame them, and give them the courage of like, oh, if she did it, I could do it. That this is, she's in my blood. This is who I am. And kind of empower not only the women, but all of the children that will come after me. You guys both said something that kind of struck something with me. So you were mentioning, Jess, that your mom was misdiagnosed. I was too. Whenever I was a teenager, and I write about it in my series in part 2, when I was a teenager, I was dismissed. Like I said, I was living with my dad and his girlfriend, who was involved in a pretty deep, dark secret throughout my entire childhood, making me feel very alone, outcast in my own house. And that led to mental illness. So I would try to console my dad about it. I didn't feel comfortable talking to his girlfriend about it. And when that happened, I was dismissed and sent to a psychiatrist. And when I spoke openly about my feelings, they're like, bipolar. I was like, okay. And they're like, lithium, Zoloft, Seroquel. Let's give you the buffet, the special.
Sounds very familiar. Yep.
Yeah. And then I became a zombie. I call it a ghost in my book. I became Ghost Girl. I'm just floating. I'm just existing. And at 18, I had enough sense in myself to realize I'm not bipolar. And I flushed all my medicine after it became my choice. When I became an adult and I wasn't being force fed this medication by my dad, I was like, I'm flushing this shit. I'm done. I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of feeling like a shell of a person. I'm breaking this. But I only traded prescription medication for substance abuse. So, there's still a couple of rocky years there where I was still trying to like figure out myself. And then after the birth of my second daughter, I had a repressed memory actually just come and knock the shit out of me. I don't know if either of you have experienced repressed memories, but they're a bitch. They hit you hard like a Mack truck, and it hit me hard, and I had to go to therapy over it. And they said, have you ever been told you have PTSD? What's PTSD? And they explained post-traumatic stress disorder and explained that it's what happens after you've been through traumatic events and how your body responds to things, and started listing off all the symptoms. And I'm like, I feel seen for the first time ever. I feel like someone understands me. And then they said, this is not something that I can prescribe medication for. And I wanted to jump up and hooray. Yes. Thank you. Because I don't feel like I need medication. I feel like I just need the right words. So at that point, when my second daughter, she's 13 now. So when she was just a baby, I got the diagnosis of PTSD. And I tried working so hard to overcome that. And it just felt like I was fighting a losing battle. You were talking, Jess, about how your mom just felt like she gave so much to you guys and she didn't give enough to herself. That 100% was me in the first 10 years of motherhood. I was constantly giving to my daughters, not looking in, just constantly giving to them to just prove I can be a mom. I can do this. I can do this. But then I look in the mirror and I'm like, who's been taking care of you, Barb? Like, who has been taking care of you? And then we had a horrible spurt of a year. We tried fostering, and that unfortunately didn't go well. I don't really think that anything is beneficial about talking about that other than, foster care system is shit.
Yeah. That's a trauma all in of itself. Yes. Yeah.
It is. I'm not happy with the way that the foster care system operates and runs. And I don't feel like they have children first. And because of that, I had to opt out and put that dream, like cancel that dream. I wanted to take it in a child and help them, but I just realized I couldn't do that and sacrifice my own family's well-being for that because of the lack of transparency with the foster care system.
I'm going to interrupt you for a split second just because I'll forget. My mom always said she wished that she could have been a foster mom.
Because you want to help the little you.
And she had a very traumatic childhood. Sorry, if I didn't say that, I was going to forget. So another
it's so
correlation.
Relatable though, because you feel like you want to help this little child. You didn't get to help yourself. So let me go find a child that actually needs help and let me mother them. Mm-hmm. But all I needed was to mother myself. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that, so right after our failed foster attempt, I lost my father to a fentanyl overdose. After I became an adult and out of the house, he fell back into addiction. He started gambling again, and with gambling comes the wrong crowds and the wrong people. And he married a woman 20 years he was 20 years older than her, and she led him down this road to his death. It was 10 years of estrangement off and on, and he ended up passing away in 21 to a fentanyl overdose. And that is the most complicated relationship. I could write a whole book on my relationship with my dad, how much I love him and how much it's just been so hard to love him.
That was how I was with my mom. So I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. And just after that, my family took like 2 years to just breathe. It was just so hard. And then we decided to have our own little, again, start all over, hit that reset button. And that I have a 2-year-old now. She was born in 24. And when that happened, and I say this, every time that I encountered a new version of motherhood with my first, second, and then my third daughter, it cracked something open in me that just drove me to want to do better and be better. And when I had my third baby, it hit me again. And I'm like, I am still like, I'm successful on paper. I'm a professional photographer. I don't know if I mentioned that or not.
Wow.
I've been a professional photographer for 13 years. I've been married for 17 years. We own our own home. We own our own cars. Like, I'm successful on paper. Why do I feel like a useless piece of shit? Why do I feel so worthless? Why do I feel like I can't be happy ever? So when I had her, I just remember the epiphany, the realization, like, Barb, you have to get better. You have to. There's no, like, my older girls, they're 16 and 13. They were 14 and 12 at the time. So I was like, I only have a few years left with them. I can't let them have this unhealed version of their mom. I can't start all over with this new baby and give her the same that I gave her sisters. Not saying that I didn't try and I wasn't a good mom, but they saw an unhealed version of me, ones that would have outbursts directed at myself. I'm just, I'd get overwhelmed or frustrated, and I'm an imploder. They don't need to see mom moping. They don't need to see all these things. So I pushed to do better, and I put myself back into therapy. And when I did, I met this wonderful woman. And then, Ryan, I want to talk about what you said with the neuroscience. When she explained neuroscience to me and how trauma affects the brain and the wiring and things like that, it was like the biggest light went off in my head, and just this complete understanding that I've been living in fight or flight mode. Mm-hmm. I've been running on survival mode my entire life, since a young girl up until a 35-year-old woman. And she started to explain things like your amygdala in the back of your head and your prefrontal cortex in the front of your head, and how that's what's supposed to be making all your decisions. But whenever you're in fight or flight mode, this is what's making all your decisions. So then I really started to understand. I've always suffered with migraines, and my migraines would start here, and they would always start under stress. So then I started to connect those dots. Like, I'm suffering horrible migraines because of my stress, because my amygdala is on fire all the time. I'm not taking breaths of fresh air. I'm not just relaxing, and I'm not like, I just had such tense shoulders. My jaws were always clenched, and I never really understood why. She started to explain the neuroscience to me, and I really started to understand me more. And when that happened, when I start to creatively like journal and start writing, it's like everything that I ever needed was right there. And it took me 35 years to finally get there.
Yeah. You finally got the roadmap, and then you wrote it out.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it.
As soon as I got it, I'm like, okay, I got to write this shit down.
That's right. I've been doing the same thing. I understand completely.
Well, it's like we always say too, like, you don't need to be fixed because you're not broken, right? Like, that's the first thing. Let's get that.
You just need to understand yourself.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, like, people out there, what's wrong with me? How can I fix it? You don't need fixing.
You have to stop saying what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yes.
Yep. 100%.
You just don't understand your brain chemistry. You haven't really sat with what's causing you to feel this way. And that's an understanding that though a lot of these things are out of your control, they are, you know, PTSD, like physical responses to your life. What you do with that information is always in your control. You know, it's a hard lesson. And I learned this in therapy too, that like the only guarantee in life is that traumatic shit is going to happen. For some, it's earlier, or I don't like to use better or worse because I don't want to quantify, because everyone's feelings are relative, but it's different for some than others. But at some point, everyone experiences a very traumatic event in one way or another. So with to sit and say what's wrong with me, or this isn't my fault, or you don't understand, or my childhood, whatever, that can be valid, while also saying, okay, so what are you doing with all of that information? And I think that's the hard thing too, right? When someone is not ready for that sort of like responsibility and acceptance, it feels like an attack, right?
Yes.
It always feels like you're being attacked because you're like, but you don't understand the things I've been through. I get it. And listen,
that's where it takes the willingness to want to do better, and the vulnerability to open up and say, you know what? I need to own my shit. I need to be able to say, yes, you know, I've done this wrong, but then all these things are outside of my control, and I just need to understand it.
And, you know, something that someone told me one time, and on the surface, it doesn't sound good, but when you break it down, it is the best advice I think I've ever gotten. They're like, when you don't know what to do, like when you're in a moment, you really don't know what to do, literally do nothing. Just do nothing. And that doesn't mean like literally do nothing, just sit and be a victim. It means if you're in a situation and you don't know how to respond, you don't know whether you should feel sorry for yourself or get up and fight or go to bed or, you know, mask, whatever, just do nothing. It is okay to say, I'm just going to sit with this.
Yes.
I don't know how I'm going to deal with it in 30 seconds from now, but I don't know the best way. So I'm just going to do nothing right now and allow your body and your emotions to run their course. You know, and this is a poor example, but it's like if you and I are arguing about something stupid, in the moment, it feels like divorce worthy, you know, because again, like the neuroscience, I'm pissed off. You don't understand me. You're disrespecting me. How do you expect me to do the dishes all the time? You don't love me. I want a divorce. Oh my God, the world is falling. But none of that it's true in the moment, but not. But if you just
when you feel unseen and unloved, your brain goes into a panic.
Yes.
Yeah, especially if you've felt that as a child, and that is your inner child screaming at you,
and
like
your body processes all trauma.
They don't care for you.
Yeah, it processes all trauma the same, right? So even though you understand that you're not being abused, your nervous system is still responding as such. So if you just separate and just sit and do nothing and allow that calmness to come, and you don't react to it, that alone is very powerful and very fucking difficult to do. Okay. I'd say this like it's easy. It's not.
No,
a big thing that I say is I'm like, learning to respond rather than react. Reacting to things is not, rarely, if ever, is good. But things do deserve a response, and a response takes time and thought and critical thinking and all of those things. But yeah, I'll
My
never forget that.
therapist
They're
said,
like,
she was like, if you're panicked, don't.
yeah,
If you're in a
that's
panic,
right.
do
don't
nothing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You just sit with it and think about it. Another thing you had just mentioned is, you know, people will oftentimes react to something and not respond to something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get so triggered by things that we just instantly want to react to it. We don't sit and think and calculate a logical response. You know, we're just letting the amygdala run the show, and we're just like, oh, well, you know, I don't love you either, and I don't
Yeah.
see you either, and it's just this battle of back and forth. But yeah, if you can separate yourself from that moment, take a deep breath. For me, it's writing stuff down, even just simple little things that happen that really just send me for a whirl. If I can sit down and write it out, I feel so much better about it, and I can come at it with clarity and understanding, and more patience and grace for myself and the person that I'm with.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I'm not as bad as I used to be, but I still sometimes.
Oh,
pop
everybody
off
does.
quick.
This is not a perfect system.
No,
Like
but
everybody
I
does.
have noticed a big difference is I can journal about it at night, or I can sit and think about it before I respond, or if I do respond like an asshole, I sit and think about it and then apologize or say,
Yeah.
I should have handled that differently.
Recognition, yeah.
Recognition's huge because I used to never do that. I used to be like, I said it, fuck it, I'm going to move on. Hopefully they will too eventually, kind of deal. But yeah, sobriety's
Well, yeah, and we talk about these
different
things like, I never react to anything and my emotions are perfect. No,
right. That's not
like
the way it is.
the goal is not perfection,
Yes.
okay? Like
No.
I want to be the mom who like doesn't yell at her daughter and all of that, but I still have moments where I'm like,
That's
what the
right.
hell is wrong with you? Why are you being such an ass today? Like, oh my God, you are a horrible child. Who have I raised? And I don't believe any of those things, but in the moment I'm like, are we raising a psychopath?
That's right. What have we done?
Because she's a great kid. She's great. She's just a teenager.
Yeah.
But it's not about perfection. What we do is we go, and this is a huge thing too. You go to your child, and I'm talking as a parent, and say, I don't like the way I handled that.
Yep.
Because my therapist also told me, she was like, the ability for a parent to go to their child and say, I don't like way that I handled that. I lost control of myself, and I would like for you to allow me to try again or do better next time. They're like, she was like, you don't know how many parents do not, like, it sounds obvious, but that alone is.
I was never apologized to.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
For anything.
Right.
Ever.
And so
I deserved like a mountain of apologies, but I never
she
received
was like,
one.
Yeah, she's like, the yelling at your kids or saying things you don't mean, like that parents sometimes they think that's more traumatic than it is. But what is even better and more life-changing than just trying to be a perfect parent is going to your kids and saying, I am really sorry. Like, that was not okay for me to say that, and I should not have addressed it that way. And
one of my big things I tell my girls is I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. And I think that a lot of kids growing up, you see your parents as like these higher, holier than thou beings that what they say goes. They know it all. And then you get to be an adult and you almost have like this resentment for them because you're realizing, oh, they don't. But then you realize, resentment is no way to live your life.
No.
So you have to reflect whenever you become your own parent or when you become a parent of your own and you realize, okay, well, I'm going to give them what I never had. And let's start with an apology. Let's start with understanding, with listening, with openness. Like you were talking earlier in the show, Jess, about just being open and honest with your daughter about like sex and relationships and things like that. From the time that I felt like it was appropriate, we've had those conversations, and we continue to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And I tell them, and this is just me being a mom, and I don't think that it had anything to do with my healing, but just a version of me that I knew that I wanted to be young, is when I talk to them about their own social issues or relationship issues, things that's just really heavy on them, I put myself back at their age, and I try to talk to them like I would my friend. Like I write about her in my book, my best friend growing up. We're still best friends. Our friendship, I think, is like 28 years old at this point.
Like me. She's
and
old
my
enough
best friend,
yeah.
So she's my bestie, and I tell my girls, I'm like, I'm going to talk to you the same way that I talk to my best friend whenever it comes to things that really like matter to you in your life. Like there's times that I can be mom. I could tell you to do the dishes, to clean your room and things like that. But when you come to me and you're vulnerable and you open up, I'm going to talk to you like a friend. I'm going to give you the advice that I would want to hear. And I'm not going to parent you right now. Right now is not the time to parent you. Right now is the time to listen to you, to relate to you, and to let you know that like I also felt this way as a kid, and it's okay. I never had that.
Yeah. And letting them know that like their feelings are valid. I like how you said this hierarchy, right? Because it also teaches them too that while you should have respect for those who are teaching you and as you're learning, you also just don't succumb to authority figures because they tell you what to do, right? Like that's a balance.
I tell them that too. I was like, I don't care if it's a police officer. You tell them you need to talk to me first.
Yeah. And I always tell my daughter too, I'm like, I can't put my finger on it, but like, you just know when something's off. Like, you know, when like you just don't like when a teacher or someone's doing something and you hate them because you just hate the class or whatever, but they're not doing anything wrong. And when something is off, and it's important that you pay attention to that. And that starts in the home too. If anything, and this is kind of funny, but I have to remind myself, like, it's almost backfiring against us now, because in our house, we've always been like, you know, if it's not okay for you to do something, it's not okay for us to do it either. And I'm not talking about like normal things, right? I'm not like, of course there are things that adults can do that kids can't. But I'm saying that like, if it's not okay for you to yell at me, it's not okay for me to yell at you. Okay.
Right.
If it's not okay for you to go upstairs and slam the door when you're mad, then it's not okay for me to go in my room and slam the door when I'm mad. Or, you know, things like that that are just human concepts. And now as a teenager, she's definitely taking that and she presses our buttons, but I mean, in the moment, it pisses me off. I'm not going to lie. But also, I love that she knows how to stand up for herself. You know, like she'll come to us and she'll say, like, you can't talk to me that way. That's not nice. And it's not in a disrespectful, I mean, sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. She's just like, why are you yelling at me right now? Like, why are you talking to me like that? Which I know as a parent makes us want to be like, but
as my daughter shows. Like you saying that, it reminded me, my middle child, and I know being a middle child is tough. I relate, like, I understand that her role in this family sometimes can just feel like she's literally just sandwiched in there, and she can sometimes feel lost or forgotten. And I really try to connect with her a lot because of that. But I was talking to her, and I don't want to get too much into like her personal stories or anything, but she was having a hard go at it with a friend or whatever. And I just was like, don't let them get you down. Just know who you are. And she's like, oh, I know who I am. And I'm like,
right.
Okay. 13-year-old Barb did not know who she was and would let anyone convince her otherwise. So I'm really proud of the fact that I'm raising a young woman that knows who she is at such a young age and is not willing to listen to anyone tell her any differently. So hearing those responses back, it lets you know that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we never had any positive like male figures really in our life. My mom, there was a lot of sexual abuse in her childhood. So she was very distrusting of men. And everyone in our family were just single moms. There were not very many. so I've never been a huge fan of men, and this is going to sound very sexist, and it is. I mean, I admit that, but I mean, even now, I'm like, please don't make me talk to a man. I'm like, I don't want to. It just makes me uncomfortable. And
My
I
husband gets that
really,
too, because he's in a
yeah,
house full of women. He
yeah. So
understands that. Like if we have an issue like with a car or whatever, I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to call somebody, like call up the repairman and have them try to mansplain something to me or demean me because I'm a woman. Like I'm not in the mood for that. I'm gonna need you to handle this for me, babe.
Oh yeah. And
he totally gets that.
yeah, but I got on this kick one time of really like, I was kind of letting myself get away with like making sort of sexist jokes about men and men are trash and all, as we women do, and just not paying attention to what I was saying around her. And she came to me one day and she said, Mom, I really don't like the way you talk about men. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. Teenage, whatever. She's like, I adore all of the men in my life. She has 2 brothers, my best friend. She has 2 sons. They've grown up together. Her dad, my brother, her uncle, like she's thick as thieves with all of them. And she's like, I understand that you and Noonie, that's what she called my mom, may not have had the best experience with men. She's like, but all of the men in my life are like my favorite people. So I understand from where you come from, but like when you just constantly trash on men, it's like you're trashing on the people who I love more than anything. She's like, and you are the one who put those men in my life.
Yeah.
And I remember like having that moment where I was like, and I looked at her and I was like, I'm so proud of you. She's like, what are you talking about? I said that I never would have gotten there. And you're right. You're so right. Like, that's not fair. I shouldn't project my discomforts onto you. And you're right. I have surrounded you with these men because I didn't want you to have those relationships. And yeah, I mean, and it was such a cool experience to be put in my place by my daughter, because I think I'm like so open-minded and I'm so accepting and all these things. And she's like, I get it. And there's a time and a place to man bash, and that's fine. Cause she wasn't telling me never talk badly about men. She's just like, it's too much. Like, I really love the men in my life. I don't like the way you talk about it like that.
Right.
I was like,
yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And there's a level of like discernment, you have to realize like, I'm not talking about all men altogether. But there's a good level of creeps out there in the world, and most of them happen to be men. So
yes. Well, and as she gets older now too, and she was probably like 12. She's 15 now, and as she's getting older now, I see her being like, men suck. I hate men, because she's not super boy crazy, but it was so true in that moment, because she's just like, I really love the guys in my life. And I'm like, I really love the guys in my life.
Good on you for not just dismissing her and just being like, oh, well, that's just how it is. That's how mom is. Get over it. You're like, you know what? You're right. And I don't think enough kids hear that. Like, from the adults in their life, like they come to them and they say, well, I don't like this. I want this to change or something like that. They're oftentimes just dismissed. And it takes a really emotionally mature person to come back and say, you know what? You're absolutely right. I was in the wrong. And I'm going to work on that.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say before we get to the very end is, I think it's because my mom used to always say that being a mother and raising us was the best time of her life. She's like, I was built for it. And she used to say we raised each other. She goes, you guys taught me just as much, if not more, than I taught you. We did it together. And so
I firmly believe that with my teens. Yeah. We've grown up together. I was 19 when I had my first baby. So yeah, well, I was almost like a month before I turned 20, but yeah, I definitely can relate to that. I feel like me and my older 2 girls just raised each other. And then now we're all collectively raising this baby. She's our family's baby.
That's so sweet. I love that.
Hey, having a toddler when you have teens in the house is the best form of birth control.
That's
100%.
Oh,
they do not want a baby for like 10 years. Yeah. And I'm like, great. I want to be a grandma one day, but not anytime soon.
Not now.
Well, Barbara, before we get to the final question, I do want you to remind everybody where they can find you, where they can purchase your books. Also, you told us you have a children's book as well. If you want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so my series, Spells for Surviving a Haunted Childhood, you can go to my website at hauntedlight.com. You can order them either through me. I sell signed copies directly, or through Amazon. It's also available on Kindle Unlimited, Jess, so you can carry
Thanks
it
a
with
lot.
you.
I'm gonna have I'm gonna have it in 3 different forms, so it's fine.
Thanks a
Yes.
lot, Barbara.
Yes. And then sometime this summer, I will be releasing my audiobook, so that'll be available as well. And I do have a children's companion story that's called Keeper of the Light, and it's not drenched in trauma, so it's more of an easy read for the littles in your life that might be learning to read themselves and need that message that we all have a light inside of us that we can share and open up and learn to come into our true selves. But yeah.
That's awesome. Now, we kind of prepped you for the final question.
Yeah.
And I told you the questions kind of evolved. But go back to pre-Supermom Barbara days. Dig deep into the dark days. And what is an inebriated memory that sticks with you? It could be funny, it could be traumatic, it could be something that sticks with you that you really feel has like changed you or you've taken with you.
Yeah, so I actually write about it in the end of part 2 and to the beginning of part 3 of my series. This is where, my story kind of goes in succession, as far as like part 1 is my infancy into youth, and then part 2 is like my teen years, and then part 3 is my adult years. So at the end of my teen years and beginning of my adult years, I'm talking specifically about addiction and my battle with that and overcoming it. And I write specifically about a moment that happened to me at work. I was using at work. Imagine that. And I'm sure anyone listening to this can relate to that.
Yeah.
I remember this was the last time I used. This was the moment that I literally, in my own mind, turned everything around. And it was, I don't want to call it a hallucination as much as it was a vision. So as immediately, I use the counter there. I'm done. I look up and I see myself, but I like actually see myself for the first time. And I really start to, like, the wheels start to turn, and like, what am I becoming? Who am I becoming? How am I going to get where I want to be if I'm doing this right here, right now? I'm supposed to be working, and I'm right here worried about this and the next time and the next time after that. Like, I am actively falling into this rabbit hole, and I have to pull myself through. And it was just such a clarifying moment for me, in such a muddied past and present, that I literally had to pick myself up, dust myself off. I went home that night and grabbed the trash can and started, my drug dealer boyfriend at the time was there with a crew of people, and I start picking up around them, and I'm just like so mad and frustrated. And finally I'm just like, everybody out, get out of my house. And they all like look at me, and this is one of my favorite lines in the book. I said that my boyfriend looked at me like I had just canceled summer. And was just like, what's going on? And I sit down and I talk to him. I'm like, look, I'm not your mom. I am not your caretaker. This isn't a life that I want, and I'm going to need you to go. And from that moment on, it's just like, I've been striving to be who I am now. And it took me a really long time to get here. But now that I'm here, it's like, I can't unsee that. One of the big things that I had to do to understand my healing is understand feelings. Like you were talking earlier, Jess, you were talking about how it's easy to react to something instead of respond to something. And I feel like when you're letting your amygdala control your life, that's what you're doing. You're constantly just reacting to things. And part of healing, though, is realizing that it doesn't mean that you're always going to be happy. It means that you're allowed to feel angry, that you're allowed to feel sad, you're allowed to feel confused, you're allowed to feel anxious, you're allowed to feel these things, and it's your responsibility if you're going to react or respond. So allowing yourself to feel these things, but not act in anger, not act in sadness, but to sit with it, to journal with it, to find a creative outlet to help you through it, and so that you can actually get through it and not just continue to carry it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just and I'm not trying to make humor out of your story, but I literally was envisioning you like walking in and like angry, throwing away everything. I was getting ready for you to say that you were throwing away everybody's drugs, and I was going to be like, oh,
no, shots fired if I would have done that. But
right, she's like, I was mad, but I was not suicidal. And just telling everybody to get out. So I mean, that's almost like a metaphor. You weren't just telling them to get out. You were telling the lifestyle, like, I'm rejecting you.
I'm done.
Like there's
I was
a
cleansing
there.
my whole existence from them and cut ties with everyone. That's like addiction 101.
Yep.
Change your environment.
Absolutely. Yep.
Change your scene, change your friends. And when you find the people who have always been there for you, then you can start to recognize in new people that you meet, oh, this person actually legitimately cares for me, and not like a comfort in a way of like, oh, this feels familiar. Some of us, familiarity does not mean comfort. It doesn't mean the right path. It doesn't mean the right thing to do. It just means that it's comfortable
and predictable. Yeah.
If you've been raised in chaos, comfortable can seem like a lot of different things. And it's just understanding what you deserve as a person and looking at yourself. Ryan touched on this just a second ago, and it's kind of like the center message of my whole series without giving away too much. But you mentioned writing a letter to your younger self. And that was really the moment for me that was like, wow, looking back on me, younger me, like how proud would I be of myself? Why am I so mean to myself? Younger me would be praising me. Why can't I be nice to myself? I know younger me would be like my biggest cheerleader. So I try to live my life now knowing that not only I have an inner child inside of me, but all of us do. There's a little Jess, there's a little Ryan. We all have little us inside of us that we have to nurture and parent when we didn't have that.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
Everybody deserves respect and dignity.
Yep.
Yes,
Without
everyone.
I agree with that. Barbara, this has been fantastic. Your story is so powerful. I relate to so much of it. I know you do too, Ryan. And I cannot wait to devour your books in about 30 seconds.
Hey, I am excited for that. And when you do, leave me reviews because that helps indie authors so much.
I will. And I will add your books to our Amazon storefront.
Yes.
Well, Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for reaching out. Greatly appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. It was great to get to know you.
Yes. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jess. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
See ya.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.